Hey guys, it's your girl Londyn and welcome to another day of Vlogmas. So I am so excited. If you have not already, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified of all my new videos. And if you haven't already, head on over to Instagram, follow me there and see what I do when I'm not here on the YouTubes with you. So guys, today's video is a ranking video. This is the first time I've ever done one of these videos, so I'm very excited. So it is going to be on Natasha Denona. So if you want to see what the rankings are for the palettes that I have, then go ahead and stick around because we are getting right into it right now. Okay guys, Natasha Denona as she's called, and she kind of got that nickname because her palettes were pretty expensive. So it was kind of like everybody liked her, or the majority of people liked her, but that price point was not something, that people could mess with. Like it wasn't it, sis. And it was a lot of money, especially when she initially launched, to drop, $239, $236 on a palette, and not really know what the quality of the eyeshadows were. Little backstory on Natasha. Natasha uses a lot of different formulas. So sometimes she would release palettes, and again, her palettes range from her two mega ones that I believe are $239 to $129 to $65, 25, and I believe 48. So they're varying ranges for varying shadows, minis, things like that. But because she uses so many different formulas, like from palette to palette, she'll just switch it up. It can look like inconsistency, and it can look like the brand doesn't have a handle on quality control of shadows. But what it is, and what I kind of both sometimes get annoyed by but also admire from Natasha, is that she is somebody who, just because she has a winning formula with an audience, she doesn't just kind of rest on those laurels and keep releasing that formula and kind of keep hitting those home runs. She is somebody that is not afraid to think outside of the kind of color palette box, the component box, and somebody who's not afraid to think outside the formula box and say, yes, I have a winning combination of things, but I'm going to shake it up and I'm going to try new formulas and I'm going to try new packaging and I'm going to try different sizes of palettes. And she kind of just does it, not really knowing if it's going to land or not. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the palettes just get panned and people are just like, whoa, this sucked. And she'll, the next time, she doesn't just go back to her original set of formulas and kind of what worked. She still takes chances and still is always trying to be different and innovative. So I think especially this time in the makeup world, where there's so many different brands, so many different products being released so rapidly, I think Natasha really has continued to kind of set the marker for the brand, and the fact that she is very innovative, she's willing to take risks, and you really don't really know what to expect from Natasha in any given moment. Because she can always change and switch it up. It kind of just is what it is. I think that's kind of the fun of Natasha, is that when you hear she's releasing a new palette, you're kind of like, what is it going to look like? Is it going to be something that is just for your basic people out there, which are absolutely beautiful? Is it going to be a set of grungy colors? Is it going to be brightly colored? Like, you just never really know what you're going to get from her, because she's always switching it up, and you never know what kind of formulas are going to be in there because she's always switching it up. So I, again, can get it slightly annoyed by that sometimes, because it's like, oh, I really like this, you should just stick with it. But at the same time, I can appreciate the innovation and the constant kind of trying to think beyond what she knows is a surefire hit and create something new. And I think that is going to make the brand have longevity, especially outside of what it originally was for, which was pro makeup artists. And now us regular consumers have grown accustomed to not only the price point, in which she has varied a lot throughout the years, but also with her trying new things. I think that kind of innovation and willing to take chances was a big part of the reason that the brand has been able to be so successful, especially with its initial price point in a normal consumer market and not just a professional market. So Today we're going to get into the ranking of all the Natasha Denona palettes that I own. I don't own every one of them, but this is just my take on what I own. If my palette did not rank where you would rank it, this is just makeup. It's not that big of a deal. How I rank the palettes were how I use them. So how much I like the color story, how much I like the performance on my eyes, on my skin, on my combination of skin. So those are the things I took into consideration, because for me, color story plays a big part in me feeling kind of inspired to want to use the shadows, and then the kind of looks that I've made with the shadows, the way I thought that they performed, that then goes into playing into how I rank the shadows. The price points did not play anything into how I rank the shadows, because I feel like Natasha Denona, some people think $25 is too much for her minis. Some people think $129 is too much for her kind of mid-size big palette. Some people think $239 is too much for her larger palettes. I feel like that is all very personal. And for me, I think for the type of quality, the innovation that you're getting from this brand, I don't feel that either of the price points in any of the categories are, for me personally, too egregious, although I would always love for them to be cheaper. If I can get a large palette, $25, of course, but I feel like the price is on par with what you're getting from the brand that you're getting it from. So I did not take into consideration the price point for myself. Of course, like I said, that is something that's very personal to each individual person. But I just want to let you know kind of how I was ranking them, really off of color story, the looks I've been able to do, and kind of how they performed on my eyes. So let's go ahead and let's get into our rankings. All right, so my least favorite Natasha Denona palette, and the palette that is coming in dead last, is going to have to be the mini Lila palette. So this is a mini. This was $25 and it has 5 shades. I did not care for this one. I enjoyed the color story that she was showing here. However, when I used it on my eyes, this is the first time I ever really felt like there was such a thing as inconsistency with the Natasha Denona brand. And this seems to be across the board. People who got this palette, more times than not, were not pleased with it. And this is the one that if you ever look at the Sephora website, that goes on sale the most, typically for $12.50, because I think it just wasn't what people anticipated it would be. And I do know that, purples, especially these deep ones and these kind of like violets, are very hard to formulate. So I don't fault the brand for that, because I haven't seen a lot of brands really be able to hit it out of the park 100% and get it right. But again, of all my palettes, this one is the one that I did not like really at all. And this is the one that I actually regret purchasing, because I did purchase it for the $25. And if I could go back, I would not purchase it again, because I don't enjoy it and I do not get much, if any, use kind of out of that palette. The next one is palette number 10. So when Natasha Denona first launched, these were the quote-unquote mini palettes. So you had her super large palettes, those really big $239 palettes, and then you had these. And these were actually plays on the larger palettes. So instead of buying the really big ones, you could buy these mini palettes, and they were kind of subset. So they were like 5 pans of variations of colors that were in those 2 larger palettes. This was one, again, I did not really care for. Again, the purple formulation, and again, this was at the beginning of her brand. The purple formulation I really didn't care for. However, these metallics, this is so soft. This is just gorgeous. I think that especially from Natasha Denona, which you can always expect from her, is her metallics are going to be on point. They used to be much softer than they are now. So like when I just touched that one was very, very soft. So they used to have a lot more fallout than I feel like they do now. But this again is another palette that I just don't get a ton of use out of, because I just don't feel like the formulation for those kind of deeper, darker purples is really there. The next palette is palette number 9. Again, the original minis. This I had gotten in a Beautylish Lucky Bag probably back in 2015, 2016. And this was my very first Natasha Denona palette ever. And I was so excited because, again, I hadn't really wanted to commit to the price of the palette. So these were $48, and then she just had the 2 larger palettes for $239. So I was like, yeah, $48 for this. I don't even know this brand. $239, absolutely not. I was able to do a really nice look with this. However, I wasn't really into cool tones at this time, and this is a very kind of antique-y looking color story, and I just didn't love it enough. That was also the year where I was really starting to get into makeup. And so I was still kind of trying to find my style, what I really liked with things, application alone. So I think if I got this today, I would have had a different experience. But back then, being very new to makeup, very new to application process, very new to figuring out what I liked with various types of makeup, this really just didn't hit for me. And so I really just haven't used it over the years, although it is beautiful. And again, this metallic, gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. But again, I do not get the use out of it that I feel like I should be. So that is why it is still ranked lower. The next palette that is at the bottom of the list, I think might surprise some people, and this is the Coral palette. So although I absolutely love this color story, like this I thought was just beautiful. It was definitely my wheelhouse. These kind of pinky tones, kind of cranberry tones, beautiful kind of pinky champagnes. This was absolutely beautiful. The problem was is that I felt like when I put this on my eyes, I just kind of looked like I was a white rat with red eyes. There just wasn't kind of the undertones of these just didn't pair enough on their own. Now, paired with other shadows, I find that you can make some beautiful looks. It's not that you can't make a beautiful look with this on its own, but for me, again, I just kind of get like white rat syndrome, and I really just don't want to look like that. And I like to be able to use my palettes on their own. So if I buy a palette, even if it's all shimmers, I like to be able to do looks with that palette by itself. Although I like to pair palettes together, I don't want to be buying palettes that have to be paired with other things. So for me, that's why this ranks so low. I love the color story. The quality was great, but I just didn't feel like I was able to get looks that looked nice on me, in my opinion, with just this palette alone. But it does pair very nicely with any other palette. The next one that I have is the Camel Palette. So I really do like this one. And this is where we start getting into basically the best of the, or the worst of the best, where I don't necessarily dislike per se any of these palettes coming up horribly, but they just, you have to rank them. So the Camel palette I think is absolutely fantastic. This is a palette that when we were allowed to travel, I would take with me all the time. It gives you, yes, a simplistic look, but at the same time, it is so easy to use. You don't have to put a lot of thought into it. You just put them on your eyes. They blend beautifully. They give you a, if it's work appropriate or you just want a light look, you want a kind of makeup but not really makeup look, I think this works fantastically. Now, where you kind of do run into a bit of a problem is if you have a deeper complexion, these kind of do lean more on the kind of lighter undertone side. So you may start to get kind of a quasi ashiness with it, but I do really, really like this palette a lot, and it really is a staple with me when I was traveling. The palette that I have that I don't have with me because it actually is in my travel bag, and I forgot that it was in there, is the mini Nude palette. And it looks very similar to the Camel palette. I will put a picture of it up here. That palette is gorgeous. Again, when I travel, the mini Nude and the Camel palette, those two together, even though they look very similar, they have varying shades of browns. I think that those are perfect palettes that if you don't know what look you want to do, but you know that you want it to be a look, even if it's simple, I think those are two that you definitely should look into purchasing, because I think although they give you a simplistic look, you definitely have a look that people take notice with. And that's why I really like them, because nothing about Natasha is just basic for basic's sake. People always know there's something special about what it is that you're wearing, and those two palettes I really, really enjoy. Next is the mini Sunset palette. So when this came out, I was so amped about it. These are my wheelhouse. I love warm tones. I love bronzy tones. What could be better than this? $25. I thought the shade range was beautiful. I thought it provided, the cranberry, it provided the bronze, it has the brown, it has kind of the goldy color there. I just really like this. I think that this is kind of, if you considered the Camel and the mini Nude more of a basic palette, then this would be your kind of basic with wing liner. Like you stepped it up and amped it up just a bit. When you want just a little bit something more, then this is the palette I think you want to go for. And again, at $25, I thought that this was a fantastic price point for what I was getting. The next palette is going to be the mini Gold palette. Now the mini Gold palette, I love this color story. This color story, I mean, get out of town. This could not be better. This is olives, this is browns. These three are metallics. Now this deep one, a lot of people are like, well, there's not a deeper color for the outer corner. When you put this on your eye, Natasha's formula is such that you can use her metallics, shimmer formula, whatever you choose to kind of call it, the non-matte. You can use them all over your lids. So you can use them in the lid, the crease, the corner. And I know that's not really traditionally standard makeup etiquette to kind of put these types of shadows in your outer V or in your crease. But with Natasha and her formula, you can. And although it's, you know, a metallic kind of shimmer here, when you put it in your outer V, it's just this gorgeous kind of take on a deep outer V. So instead of having kind of like a black or a very deep brown where it's matte and it can be almost stark, because this is shimmers, it almost is a black with kind of goldy brown flecks in it. So you get this multi-dimensional outer corner, and it really gives you a bit of pizzazz, and it's not as stark as kind of a matte deep brown or a matte black. I think it really does not only amp up the look, but I think it makes a smoky look feel more approachable because it's not so stark. So I love this color story. Gorgeous, just absolutely freaking gorgeous. Love this one. Like, and it's just like fall on a freaking palette. I just, oh, cannot get enough of that one. The next one is going to be the Cranberry Palette. So this one, again, these are kind of like my wheelhouse. These are warm cranberry golds. They're absolutely gorgeous. Now, the funny thing is, I know our first two palettes, we had some kind of violets and purples that I felt weren't really formulated the best, and I didn't really like how they applied. When we get to this palette, these kind of deeper maroony color and this purple here, I mean, it was so nice. It was, let's try to do these two. They were very nice. They felt very consistent, and they felt like they weren't pressed as hard as the first two palettes you saw. So here, I do think there was a formula change. Again, I know Natasha changes her formula frequently, but I do not know kind of the ins and outs of each formula. If you want to know that, Kinky Sweat, if you have not watched her videos, she's like your go-to for all things Natasha Denona, Pat McGrath, Charlotte Tilbury. She really knows the ins and outs of the variations and formulas and when they changed and why they changed. So if you ever want to get more insight on that, go check out her channel. I'll leave it in the information box below so you can click on it. She is kind of like your guru for that. But I do believe there may have been a formulation change here in kind of this matte formula, because it almost feels like a satin, not quite her creamy formula, but almost like a satin matte. It was very weird, but it forced these to apply much better, and I really like this. And even though it's kind of maroon and purple, it very much so gives me kind of like holiday vibes. So I really do like this around turkey time, Christmas, things like that. The next one is the Mini Retro Palette. So I know some people were kind of like, nah, I don't really know if I like that. I do have a video on this, and I will also link that in the information box below, comparing this to another one of her palettes and giving you an overview on it and some swatches and some comparisons. So I like this. This just reminds me of kind of a nice desert scape. I grew up in the desert, and this kind of reminds me of the desert, and kind of some of the colors you see frequently throughout the desert. For me, I thought this was going to be too light even on my complexion, so I was very leery about purchasing this palette. What I found when I got it is that it wasn't. It creates such a beautiful, soft look that on me and my eyes is not ashy, but then you have these beautiful, again, metallics that just give you that little bit of amped up. So if you're looking for something that is quote unquote still quasi basic, but it isn't in the nude category as far as kind of tans and browns, this is a nice one because this gives you soft pinks. This gives you soft greens. This just gives you a very soft look with a little bit of punch with the metallics. And I just really, really love this palette. It really has been my go-to since I got it. When I want quick looks, but looks that aren't necessarily nude, that is one of the palettes that I go to. So you see, even the Lord knows we're getting ready to get into an area of things. So now we're going to start seeing some of the larger palettes. And I know this one in particular might sting a bit for some people. So it's at the bottom or further down. It's the gold palette. I know, guys. I know. So, the gold palette. Considering I like the mini gold so much, right? This has not seen a lot of usage by me. And the reason for it is just that it's the color story for me, although nice, for whatever reason, it is slightly uninspiring. So let me go back to the mini gold so you guys can just kind of see where I'm coming from. And that this is the gold palette, okay? And this is the mini gold. To me, these are two very different palettes. This is like that goldy, grungy, just like really inspires me. This is supposed to be a play on this, and to me, they're very different. I would not have known that the gold palette and the mini gold were supposed to be kind of cousins of each other and be similar, because for me, they're two very different palettes. So although I love the mini gold a lot for different reasons, the gold palette, although it's ranked higher than the mini gold, really, especially of the larger palettes, is not one of my favorites. Now, what I do really like about this one is that it has so many metallic shades in it, and these are just absolutely gorgeous. So for me, that's what caused this palette to be ranked higher than maybe some people may have been thinking that I would have, considering where I put the mini gold at, was that it just had more shimmers in it and metallics in it, and they are just absolutely, absolutely beautiful. This white one right here, I mean, the reflectiveness on this, I don't even know if you'll be able to see it. It is just gorgeous, especially layered over like a nice brown shade as an inner corner highlight. It is very, very pretty. So the mini gold, although ranked lower than the gold palette, I feel like the gold palette for me, the mini gold palette for me, the color story speaks to me more, but the kind of shimmer metallics speak to me more in the actual gold palette, if that makes any sense. The next one, this is the Love palette. Now, I love this palette. I love pink. I absolutely love that she came out with a pink kind of package for the whole palette. Like, I just loved it. Where we got into a little bit of our shakiness. Okay, so this palette, beautiful color story. Absolutely gorgeous. Perfect for Valentine's Day. I really love kind of those pinky reds. I really love purples. So I really did, like, this cold to me. I love this color story. The metallics, the shimmer is beautiful, formula nice, until we get to where we kind of have fallen short before. And it's some of these purples and these cranberries. These cranberries, these deeper cranberries, and this purple in here, they were difficult. I felt like they were difficult to blend out. And again, I felt like it's not that it's pressed hard, and it is actually very soft, but it just, like, even on my finger, it just kind of gets a little strange when you try to go blending it out. So it wasn't enough to put this palette like at the bottom or anything, but you do just have to work with this palette. And I very much so am used to Natasha Denona palettes needing little to no work. You basically just put it on your brush and go to town and you're good. That was a palette that when I used it, I was not accustomed to having to work for my look. And that one, girl, you got to put in work like the rent is due tomorrow. And by tomorrow, I mean 8 a.m. And girl, it is already 11 p.m. So we have very little time to get that rent. That's how I felt about that palette. So although I love the color story, I love the component, I do know when I use it, I have to have time because your girl has to work for it. The next one is the Safari palette. So again, this khaki green, loved this so much. This component was so beautiful. But then, so we have this beautiful kind of component, and I almost expected it to be like the mini gold, like kind of grungy colors inside. Safari-esque, but I don't know, grungier. And then when we opened it, it was a beautiful color story, but it kind of left me feeling a little bit like something was left out. And I don't necessarily know if it had to do with this, in particular this orange color right here. I don't know. It's whenever I look at this palette, that color just stands out so much for me. But I expected to see some more kind of khaki, olive, grungy greens in here. Some khaki brown colors. And I just didn't know if this color story really spoke to me and said Safari. So although I love the color story on its own, the outer packaging and the title Safari, I just didn't know if in my mind it computed, and I get that the landscape of a safari and the purples and the brown tones and the oranges and the sunsets and that, I get that. But again, the outer packaging for me, everything plays together, and the two just seemed like they didn't really match up. To me, if you notice, these shades are very reminiscent of a recent palette she released, and that is because there were colors taken from other palettes to get there. So again, although I enjoy that palette, I just, the outer component and the shades itself kind of just were kind of off for me. So the next one is the Sunrise palette. So I love this little mini palette. This was $65. This color story like speaks to my very soul. Speaks to my soul. This palette had the industry kind of on its head. It had every brand from very affordable to higher end trying to recreate this sunset palette. And I'm sorry, sunrise palette. I know I said sunset because that is the cousin to this. But this palette and the sunset palette had just brands trying to recreate these, because these tones were just warm, but they almost have a vibrancy about them. So they're not like warm and dull kind of. They are warm and vibrant. So I really like these. I just, oh God, this Natasha does these warm looks so well. I just really love that palette. And the kind of deeper purples in this one were fine. So again, I don't know, I know there's been a lot of formulation changes and that there are several types that she uses, but I don't know which palettes they changed from and to or why. Again, go to Kinky Sweat for that, but you can definitely tell from certain palettes to certain palettes that there definitely were formulation changes in which she used different formulas to do, especially those purples and maroons you notice it the most on. So the next palette is the Biba palette, or the barbecue palette as people called it. This was just such a sleek, beautiful component. I really love these kind of matte and raised word components that she had started doing. And I wouldn't have been mad if she kept going with it. But again, Natasha's Natasha. She's not going to rest on laurels and kind of stick with what works. This, to me, if you are a neutral lover and you need to purchase any palette, this to me is the palette for you to purchase. I believe this was $129, so it is on the pricey side, but I feel like you could get this palette and you would be good to go. You could create look after look after look. To me, this is effortless. It just has your kind of caramel color warm tones. It has more of your orangey warm tones. It even has some cool tones here at the bottom. I think this was just a palette that you definitely, if you're looking to spend a little bit more money, you could get this and give it to anybody, and I think they could totally use it and create a ton of looks. And if they had any palettes they wanted to add to it that were maybe more colorful, like you're just in there like swimmer. So I really love this palette a lot. This palette definitely is a great kind of travel palette as far as color selection, and the fact that the component is hard and can travel kind of well, because I have dropped this before. And if I didn't tell you already, which I didn't think I did, she had started doing on the back of her palettes, putting these holes, and this was so that way you could easily depot her shadows. So instead of having to go through and kind of melt glue and possibly like break shadows to get them out, she started just having these so you could just poke through, take them out, and you could put them in like a Z palette if you wanted to. You could put them in other Natasha Denona palettes and really kind of mix and match and create your own color story. And again, that is something that I think is so innovative about Natasha. She sees that people are depotting palettes because maybe they only like a handful of shades in one palette and they're getting rid of whole palettes, or they're getting rid of an entire palette because they say, out of 12 shades, I only like 2, but it's not worth depotting. I'll just give it to somebody else. She then made it so that way, you know, seeing kind of that trend that people were doing, that her palettes now, you can pop them out and you can mix and match your own story. You can create the Natasha Denona palette of your dreams. I really like that because I think it really shows that she's okay with you saying that I really like the color story you came up with, but I don't think it's the perfect one for me. And her saying, okay, we'll take my other shadows, put them together, and make your perfect color story. And not really being stuck kind of on the ego that, well, what I put out there is the best. This is the best color story. This is the best vision. Because maybe it's not for everybody. So she really allows you to take her formulas and take what she has created and then kind of make your own picture from it. So I really like that. and enjoy it. The next palette is kind of a polarizing one, and it is the Tropic Palette. So I love this component. Again, very Florida, very Bahamas, very Miami. Loved it. The color story inside, again, spoke to me. I did a video on this probably 2 years ago, maybe. This is, I just love this color story. Where people really loved it was this bottom row, these purples, these blues, these greens. It was like that punch of color. This is when a lot of brands started doing the punch of blue, like the punch of a bright color in a palette, and it was gorgeous. Unfortunately, it did fall short for a lot of people where they wanted it to be more punchy than it was. And they really just felt like it wasn't what they anticipated. Now for me, especially when I got this palette at the time, again, I still was midway through my makeup journey. So although I used the bottom kind of colors, I didn't use them a ton. And that's not why I got this palette. I got the palette, one, because I thought the component was beautiful. But again, it was for these kind of nude, peachy, yellowy type colors here. And the punches of color were just kind of a cherry on top of the cake. So I still really love this palette. I get great use out of it, especially in the summer months, because it does provide kind of more of a light wash of color, and then you can just add the pops of color at the bottom. But they aren't as punchy as they look in the palette. They do have kind of less pull. So I mean, let's just take this purple. I mean, it's very, very light. Let's take this blue. So in the palette, it looks very vibrant. On here, it looks very vibrant. But as you start to blend it out, it starts to kind of blend away. So they just weren't as punchy, I think, as some people had wanted them to be. But for me, they work out well because they give you just like a nice wash of color, especially in the summertime. So now we are getting into the last set of shadows that we have here. So this is my Creme De La Creme. This is my gold medalist at the Olympics. These are my kind of ride or die Natasha Denona shadows. So let's go ahead, get into the final countdown, kids. Metropolis. So Metropolis, I believe, was last year's holiday palette. Oh, Metropolis is with the leather packaging. So this is kind of like her very first type of packaging, going back to that. So now we kind of got out of these harder packages and we went back to what the gold palette is in, what her original packages were in, and it's kind of this leather component. Metropolis, man, whew, gorgeous. Now where we kind of went backwards was this. I really hate this. I really like when she got out of that and started putting names in the palette on the component, but it is what it is. Metropolis has just everything you want. This and Biba together, stop it. You have everything you could ever want. You don't need any other shadows. These shadows are gorgeous. They feel gorgeous. They're beautiful. There's so many for you to choose from. Yes, they're smaller palette pan sizes, but they are just, I mean, they are just gorgeous. I mean, that was not good because I just went over things that I already had shadows on, but they are just, I don't know if you guys can see that little one. They're just absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. I just love this. Kind of reminds me of Tetris every time I see it. I don't know. Or a Rubik's Cube. But I think this is your grungy, fall, everything you ever need type of dream. Love, love, love this palette a ton. I love Metropolis. The next palette is going to be the cousin to a palette we have previously mentioned. Oh no, I keep feeling like I have like a brush hair on me or something. And that is the Sunset palette. So again, we're with the leather packaging. We're with this, which I don't like, but this color story. So the Sunrise palette had the makeup game on its head trying to kind of copy it. This was the original, the Sunset palette. When this came out, this is when Colourpop tried to dupe it. This is when Makeup Revolution tried to dupe it. Elf, there was just so many brands that tried to dupe this kind of sunset, warm looking palette because, oh gosh, guys, I'm so sorry, but I feel like my makeup brush left the hair there. It just was all the rage. Like, this is when kind of the pop of yellows started really coming in. The pop of yellow and pop of oranges. So this was a big pop of yellow, pop of orange year. And this palette just kind of set a trend and started it all. Absolutely gorgeous. I really think this was the palette that kind of shot her into kind of normal consumer heaven, because this was just a color story that just spoke to people, and it really just didn't stop speaking. So love that palette. The next one is her newest palette, and this is the Triochrome Triochrome palette. So as you can see, component, freaking gorgeous. Stop it. Inside, I don't know why this always gives me Beetlejuice vibes, especially with this row right here, but I just love this palette. I love purples, and you have an entire row of kind of like various colors of purple. I love greeny yellow, such a vibrant look. Then you have some of your pinkies and your oranges down here. I like this. I think that this reminds me of a pale neon palette, if that's possible to even have those two words together. I know a lot of people are very disappointed that the supposed triochrome shades, which are these three, did not necessarily appear. I wish I had not done that to my hands. Did not necessarily appear to be trio or triochrome. But to me, like, I swatched that green, that's this green. That's purple. I swatched that purple right there. That's how deep that comes out. So for me, I love that the transformative, this green right here, I mean, look at that. It's like green, yellow, gold. I love it. But I guess if you're like in the game where you do a lot of shopping with independent brands that have true, I guess, trichrome. A lot of people said these are more duochromes than trichromes. I see tri in them. Again, I think that these are absolutely gorgeous, just beautiful. But for others, that wasn't the case. So for me, I think these give you a nice pop, but I really love all the mattes in here. That's what you'll find a lot of people say, that really, okay, they're disappointed in the triochromes, but they really do love the mattes. And I love this color story. It just is so gorgeous. And again, just okay, we were talking too long. We got the red light. It turned off. So what I was saying is I really love that palette, and I just keep looking at my fingers, and these are just absolutely beautiful. So I really do love the triochrome, whatever you want to call it, palette. I think she really stepped out of the box with that one and really took a chance and a risk on it. I think it's about 50-50 of people loving or just being lukewarm about it. I don't think anybody loves or hates it. I think they just either love it or they're lukewarm about it, but I really enjoy it. The next palette is still a more recent palette, and I do have a video on this one. This is the Glam Palette. I will link my video down below too if you want to go see it. Oh, I did a day to night look with this. This is beautiful. This packaging, so understated, so simple, so beautiful. The inside though, beautiful. So this is a cool tone palette, and people love the fact that she came out with an entire cool tone palette, but really to me it was a mid-toned cool tone palette. It was kind of right in the middle. It wasn't too cool to be dusty, but it also wasn't warm. So this wasn't going to be the sunset palette. To me, I found it to be right there in the middle. I thought these were beautiful. Now, she did do something different with this. Instead of putting shadow names, she put things like inner corner, crease, to kind of help guide people who maybe were newer to makeup to where they should put the shadows. Again, because you can take her shimmers and metallics and put them in the inner corner, in the crease, in the outer corner. She kind of put that here because I think that people assume that because the way makeup has been, that you can only put a shimmer on the lid and nowhere else. And she kind of shows you here, like, no, you can put it in the outer corner, you can put it in the crease, and she kind of guides you. Again, though, this does have the pop outs on the back, so you can pop this out. And I've seen many people who have switched these shades around and put them in other palettes, changed them up here, and came out with some beautiful looks too. But I really love this palette, and I was surprised because this did look like it was almost going to be a little too cool for my skin tone also. But especially if you watch my video, you'll find that that was not the case. That in fact, this worked out perfectly for me. And I think that it is a palette that if you have pigmentation in your complexion, that you shouldn't look past simply because it's a cool tone palette. The next one we have is the Bronze Palette, and guys, this is number 3. So we are getting down to the end. So coming in at number 3 is the Bronze Palette. This came out over the summer. This is, gorgeous. Let me just, guys. Oh, just freaking beautiful. The looks you can do with this, the formulation of these shadows, like when the summertime hits, and not that I use my shadows only in certain seasons because I don't, but when that summertime hits, pull this one out. This is gorgeous. This is just, This is your best Ibiza dreams, let me tell you. I love this palette. This palette got a lot of use over the summer, a lot of use. I really, really love that palette. The next one that we have, number 2, is her Peak palette. Now, this was a BoxyCharm exclusive. And this actually, and I didn't know this until I watched another YouTuber's video, which I cannot recall her name right now, but I will put it in the information box down below, that these are actually all shadows from varying palettes. So these are shadows that she pulled from different palettes and just put them together in a mini one, which is probably why I like it so much. This just reminds me of a wheat field in Idaho at twilight on a warm summer's evening. So going in the evening, it's twilight, you're in Idaho, it's a wheat field, it's gorgeous. This is what I have on my eyes today. It was so simple to create a look with this. Again, Natasha Denona, shadows, you know, generally speaking, except for those 1 or 2 off times, there's no fuss, no muss. You just put them on your eyes, they blend themselves out, they give you a beautiful look each and every time. And again, this is just kind of like, you look at it and say, well, that's basic. But I feel like my look is not basic. I feel like it's simplistic, but I feel like it still feels special to me. It still looks special. When I look at it, I'm just like, oh, that just looks like a little something extra. So I really love this palette. I really enjoyed it. And if you keep watching the channel over Vlogmas, there may be a giveaway of that one. So if you didn't get to snatch it in your BoxyCharm, and if you are kind of a Natasha Denona collector and you really want to have it, one, because you like the color story, completion purposes, whatever, there may be a giveaway coming up sometime in December on the channel, so you might want to subscribe and kind of stick around for that. The number 1 palette from Natasha Denona that I would buy over and over and over again. I know people are gonna be like, that's the one you chose of all her palettes, that's what you chose? The mini Zendo. I freaking know. I know, it's kind of like, girl, get out of here. This palette is just, it's beautiful. So if you're saying that looks like a palette before, yeah, the mini retro. So the mini retro in essence is a quote-unquote lighter version, but again, if you watch my video, you'll see in comparison to each other, once you actually swatch them, they really are cousins, not siblings. They're not as similar as you would think, but they're not so different that you necessarily have to purchase both palettes. You would be fine just doing one or the other, but if you did purchase both palettes, you wouldn't be kind of buying the same shades, and it wouldn't be like not worth it. I just love this. This is, again, simplistic, because that's what Natasha Denona's eyeshadows are. They're easy, effortless, easy breezy, put them on. I just love the look I get with this. I love that it's a bit deeper than the mini retro. Every time I do a look with this, I'm never disappointed. I always think that it comes out beautiful. And the shades I love, they're these nice kind of pinky shades right here. Again, you have kind of like your outer corner kind of satin shimmer that she has here. I really absolutely love this palette, and I absolutely would purchase this again and again and again. And this is one that I would absolutely recommend to people to buy, especially for a $25 price point, to go ahead and give it a go, especially because, again, just like mini retro, you look at it and you say, is somebody with pigmentation, melanation in their skin going to be able to use it? Yes. And if you watch my video on those 2 palettes, you will see that you are able to use it, and it doesn't look ashy or dusty, but it just looks beautiful and effortless. So guys, those are all my Natasha Denona palettes. I mean, this is a long video. We've been cut off by the camera. We have had a lot that we had to stack up over here, but I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed my perspective and how I ranked them. Again, it may not be how you rank them, and you may be like, ugh, she's contradicting herself. This doesn't make sense. But again, that's how I ranked the palettes. That's how I use the palettes. And that's just that. So let me know how you rank the palettes. Let me know if you've used any of these palettes. If you have, what you like about them, what you dislike about them. Do you have any of your other palettes? What do you think about those? Have you noticed the formulation changes more so the more palettes that you got? Do you like certain formulations better? Again, I will leave Kinky Sweat's video down below so that we can go watch her channel, because she is kind of like the in the know about the kind of nitty gritty details about these brands and changes and things that they make. But I'm very excited. I liked doing that video. I liked doing that ranking video. That was that was exciting for me to kind of go back through that, ooh, which ones and why, and kind of see and compare and contrast. So I hope that you guys really enjoyed the video, because I enjoyed making it for you guys. Yeah, I'm pretty amped. I didn't realize I had so many Natasha Denona palettes, but again, I love the brand. Natasha Denona for me is a auto buy, because I know the quality of the brand and I know the ease of use that the shadows have, generally speaking, and that you're always going to get something understatedly beautiful with Natasha Denona, even with the trio chromes, still understatedly beautiful. I just absolutely love the brand, and I love what she does, what she's doing, and I can't wait to see what she does in the future. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for spending this time with me, especially if you made it through the entire video. Greatly appreciate it. Very, very excited that you guys stayed with me. And you want to know what? I think what I'm going to do is, if you stayed with me throughout this video, then I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a giveaway. How about that? How about we go ahead and we do a giveaway of the Peak palette? I have, not this one, of course, because I've used it, but I have one that has not been used, not been opened, of course, still in packaging. Let's go ahead and do a giveaway of it. So the giveaway will run until the end of December. So on January 1st, I will pick a winner. And if you want to enter, what you have to do is you have to be following me here on YouTube. And what I want you to do is, in the comment section, is I want you to write a comment about your favorite Natasha Denona palette. If you haven't been able to use any of her palettes, which one would you want to use and why? Also leave me your email address, because I'm going to need to be able to contact you, because what I'm going to do is put the comments in a random number generator starting from the furthest comment, so the very first comment I got to the last comment. That's how I'm going to number them. And when it generates a number of the comment, I'm going to choose the person, and I'm going to need to have a way to contact you. I will give you 24 hours to get back to me. If you don't contact me within that time, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a different winner. So I will put the winner, I will email you. I will put it in the pinned comment who won, and if you don't contact me back, then I'll choose somebody else. I'll change the information to the new person that won. If you want to get a second entry into this giveaway, then go over to my Instagram. I will leave it down below for you. It's at Londyn. And if you follow me over on Instagram, and I will go ahead and I will post this giveaway there. And if you go to the post for this giveaway and you again write what is your favorite Natasha Denona palette, shade, which one you want to use the most, which one you're looking forward to the most, what you'd like to see from her, anything Natasha Denona related, then you can go ahead and get a second entry. If you do that, come back to this video, leave a second comment, and just leave your Instagram name. So that way I know that you have a second entry, and that way your original comment for the YouTube video and your comment for the Instagram are separate, and so that way they will be categorized numerically as two separate comments. So again, with the giveaway rules, we are just doing US only, unfortunately, because of shipping and kind of what's happening in the world right now. I want to kind of keep it more simplistic. Once everything is all done and over with, I will try to do an international giveaway, but US residents only. You have to be following me on YouTube. Leave a comment down below about Natasha Denona, your favorite shade, favorite palette, what you want to try, etc., etc. Leave your email address so I can contact you. If you want to get a second entry, go to my Instagram at Londyn. Follow me on Instagram. On the giveaway post for this giveaway, then you need to put the same thing. Natasha Denona, what palette you want, shade you want, what you like. Leave a comment there. Come back to this video and then just put I would just put at Londyn. So that way I know that that person has put a second entry in from Instagram, and that way it can be numerically counted as a second entry when I put it into the random random calculator that's going to do to choose. So super simple. I will put those verbally in the information box just in case you guys forget. Again, I will be picking the winner on January 1st, and I will put a pinned comment, depending upon how long it lets me do it, of the rules to enter and your second entry that you can have. So again, if you stuck around to the end, then I guess that you're getting a bit of a surprise, because we are doing a little bit of a giveaway. So I love you guys. Thank you for spending time with me. I will let you go now. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you for the next Vlogmas video. I love you guys. Bye.